Ladies and gentlemen, today I wanted to discuss the problems with Donald Trump and his unlimited support for Israel. Of course, this is not just a Donald Trump problem, it's a US government problem. However, it's more easily exposed under a Trump administration that has a supposed America First agenda. The loyalty to Israel becomes undeniable and unshakable. A good example of this would revolve around the opening days of the second Trump term. The administration announced a pause on all foreign aid, except to Israel and Egypt. This highlights a wider point showing an inconsistency within Trump's message. Ukraine is in the middle of a war, but they didn't get an exemption. Their aid was also paused. Trump recently made big headlines, announcing the United States would take over the Gaza Strip and turn it into an economic zone with other wealthy countries. This contradicts his overall party's viewpoint of wars currently, which is much less of an aggressive stance. The United States has spent over $8 trillion on the war on terror since 2001 and has accomplished very little. Trump has also spoken recently about the possibility of Israel annexing the West Bank and relocating Palestinians, with some Israeli diplomats suggesting Western countries would have to take them. I can understand the idea of trying to end the war once and for all, and to do so it may require a change within the Gaza Strip, which has been leveled by Israeli missiles for the last 2 years. The loose war hawkishness of Trump's verbiage towards the areas show inconsistencies compared to other foreign threats. He recently demanded minerals from Ukraine for continued military support and has hinted at demanding something similar from Taiwan if a situation arises in the Pacific involving China. Trump recently posted a video on Truth Social depicting a revitalized Trump-branded Gaza with new buildings and investment into the area, along with himself lounging by a pool with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister. Trump's entire cabinet are hardcore Zionists and fully endorse heavily involvement in the Middle East and protection for Israel. Many old boomers within the US government view Israel as holy land that must be protected and defended for religious purposes. Taking a biblical approach to national defense tends to lead to biased decision-making and ignores broader geopolitical situations. Whether or not God granted land specifically for Israel depends on interpretation of biblical text. The biblical land promised does not necessarily translate to modern political claims. Ancient biblical Israel was different than the modern state of Israel, which was established through political and historical processes in 1948. In January of 2020, during Donald Trump's first term, he ordered a drone strike that killed the commander of Iran's forces at Baghdad International Airport. Israel played a significant role in this assassination. It has been rumored recently that Iran has tried to assassinate Trump on several different occasions. US involvement in matters relating to Israel in the Middle East is an extreme negative. The assassination of the Iranian general with the help of Israel during Trump's first term only prolongs US involvement and comes with significant risk as we see potential assassination attempts on Trump. Whether or not somebody believes Israel has a right to demand a relocation of the Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza Strip shouldn't really matter from the perspective of Trump's MAGA policy. But that policy doesn't seem to be applied to Israel. The key differences in the ways the Ukrainians are treated magnify the problem. Their leader was recently called a dictator by Donald Trump 3 years after being invaded by Russia. Meanwhile, Trump is demanding the displacement of all Palestinian people, all while giving Israel more land, which will create more of an anchor for the United States into the region. Other Middle Eastern countries see the US's preferential treatment of Israel, which fosters animosity as they realize that Israel is stronger with US backing. Trying to end the war between Israel and Palestine is understandable, but from a MAGA perspective, it seems a two-state solution would have been preached for by Trump. It's telling, considering there is a growing movement within right-wing politics for the United States to detach itself totally from the Middle East. It's a stance Trump has appeared far away from because of his entanglement with Israel. His constant slogan of putting America first quite literally doesn't seem to apply when the topic involves Israel. It seems to be a broader issue within the US government, and one that Trump has been indoctrinated with due to monetary reasons. If we wanted to be charitable to Trump, we could assume that he was just trying to find the quickest way to end the war and keep it from happening again, which is consistent with remarks he made during his campaign. The Gaza Strip is a small area of land completely cut off from the West Bank and other Palestinian settlements. It breeds conflict with Israel based on its direct border. But if that were the case, we would have hoped Trump would also be trying to leverage removing the Palestinians in exchange for US stopping involvement in the Middle East altogether. This would be more consistent with Trump's business thought process, like getting minerals from Ukraine or semiconductors from Taiwan in exchange for military support. It would be a final gift from Trump to Israel. You guys get land with no Palestinians, but you must allow the United States to distance themselves from the region. This video was done mainly to expose a clear double standard between the way Israel is treated compared to other foreign countries. Based on the current situation, Israel's present goals are a key driver of instability in the Middle East. The unconditional support the United States has fuels radicalization and resentment of the US. Overall, Trump's support of Israel is not surprising. It should be expected. Even if Trump were to say tomorrow that he wanted to detach the US from the Middle Eastern region, it would be virtually impossible to do due to Congress's full support of the Israeli state. However, there is something to be said when it comes to Israel's preference of Trump over a Democratic candidate. The Democrats were divided when it comes to their support of Israel, with left fractions breaking off entirely from the party. The right-wing establishment support is a lot more together and unified. It does seem like, at a human level, many Americans are starting to grow tired with the continued support keeping us involved in this region. Because of renewable energy in countries like Canada, oil is not really an excuse for the US to have major involvement like it once was in the 1900s. Trump supporting Israel is understandable, but when it comes at the detriment of the United States, that's when it becomes a problem. Whether or not you view Israel as a detriment to the US depends on your background and perceived threats of other countries within the region. Would the Middle Eastern intel that Israel gathers for the United States matter if the United States was not propping up Israel? Would countries like Iran pick a fight with the United States if we weren't funding one of their adversaries? It does speak at a foundational level the fact that even with Trump's more America First policy, the rhetoric with Israel remains. It only magnifies the situation more in compared to other foreign nations' lack of support from the Trump administration.